This is our level 2 technician test for Park County Search and Rescue. You can follow along with the rubric for this test. The first skill you'll see on there is a radium release hitch. The time that you'll be allowed for that is 3 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and open up our kit here, and we'll just run our radium release off of the truck here. So the truck will represent our anchor, and our load would be out away from that. We'll go ahead and run it here with our tough cord. The idea of the radium release is that it allows you to have extra slack in your system if you would need to release it under a load if something were to go wrong. Alright, so for our radium release hitch, we're going to start out our load with simple figure 8 on a bite. And we'll just use our pack here as our load. So starting with that figure 8 on a bite, you're going to come back to your anchor, and you're going to tie a munter hitch. And put that in. Now this strand's going to come back to your load, and back up, again to the same carabiner, at which point you're going to tie this off with a half hitch, and then get a nice long tail and tie an overhand knot. And that locks that off. And you can go ahead and clip this tail back to your carabiner for extra security. And that is your radium release hitch. I'm going to be rigging the sked for a low angle drag. The first step, if you're pulling from the top of the sked, is actually to move this strap out of the way. You can actually put it under one of these or clip it in, whatever's convenient. The rope that comes with the sked already has a figure 8 knot tied into it. This is your anchor point. You're going to start by putting one of the ends through each of the top grommets. You're going to come up, come underneath that yellow webbing, come out. This is best done with 2 people so you can keep everything nice and even, but we'll run through it. Try to hang on to your end and not hit your patient in the face. So we got that knot nice and even there in the middle. You're going to come down, go from the outside in, and then back out your next set of grommets. Sorry about that, I should not be crossing those. Nice and stuck against there. Down, and you're going to go out this bottom grommet. Same thing on the other side. Inside out. And once you go out the bottom grommet here, 2 people, you're going to make sure that's nice and snug. The knot's nice and even at the top. Right in the middle. And then you're going to tie just a straight square knot here. And then this is actually going to pull up, kind of tuck that foot up toward these handles. We're going to go through the handles and another square knot. Alright, and that is your tie-in. If you are doing a low angle drag, if you're on the rope, you can go ahead and hook in here. if you're going through a flat spot and you need to actually drag the patient, keep in mind this patient is not packaged for a drag. That's another step where you do need to put in more padding. But since we're just doing the rigging for now, I'm just talking about this. This bag itself actually has 2 attachment points that are triple sewn. So it is designed to wear as a backpack. You can hook this through, and you can actually strap this on and have one person dragging the patient in that way while others can help it along. So that is the skid skill. So our next skill is going to be titanium litter rigging. We're going to do high angle rigging for both horizontal, so that's steep double rope technique with the patient horizontal, high angle vertical, which is the patient vertical, and then low angle. We'll go ahead and start with the high angle ones because we want to put our patient here in his harness, which is always located in this red bag. You'll notice putting the patient in a litter, I've got his helmet and his glasses on. It's an important part of that. So this is his harness. You can just take it straight across. It sits just above his pelvis. These straps just go under the legs and back out. Slip in here. Same thing on this side. Inside out. So that should be nice and snug up in the groin so that if he shifts, he's not falling into that. This other yellow strap's coming through, yellow to yellow, comes right through and hooks up here on this strap, and then it adjusts there. So this is keeping the patient from sliding down when he goes vertical. Next part is hooking the patient into the litter. These straps should come right up over the shoulder. And loosen it up. Like so. More slack. And those get tightened up. And then the blue ones. And our patient is good to go. So the harness is necessary anytime the patient's vertical, and there would be a risk to life if he came out of the litter. Once we have that hooked up, we're going to go to our straps. We have orange straps in this bag, as well as a ring for the horizontal rigging. The vertical high angle, which is the patient on a cliff with his feet down, is probably the easiest to rig. So you want to come down to the level of these factory clip-in points, which we don't use, but they provide a nice marker where we need to go. And simply girth hitch those and run this out here. In a vertical situation, you want these on the outside so that the litter can do what's called a pike and pivot. So as it comes up, it can actually pivot and you're not restraining that motion. And those come up to the top, and these are your 2 tie-in points for your litter system. Next, we'll talk about the low angle. So when the patient's being pulled up a low angle slope, you generally don't want that to pivot. You want that to stay in a nice firm line. You've got a crew holding the litter up typically. So this is actually going to come on the inside if you can. A little tough with our straps on there, but typically he would not be in a harness for low angle. And those can come in behind this and then come out the top here. It's okay if they come out the sides as well. In your level 3 test, you also learned about the 20-foot webbing and the use for that in low angle, which is also nice and weighs less than this. But the big point is you want these straps in tight close to the litter when you're doing low angle. Finally, we will do the high angle. So this is vertical wall, horizontal litter configuration. That's when we're going to utilize our steel ring, 4 straps, and carabiners here. So again, the factory has a clip-in point that we don't use, but it provides you a nice reference on where to put these for good balance. Certainly if you have someone in a horizontal configuration like this on a wall, you're going to want to find the balance point. You can put bags in here to balance them. You can move your patient around. That's kind of getting into some of the nuances, but the basic rigging, you've got 2 straps at your feet and 2 at the head. Kind of get those evened out. And then these are going to go to the steel ring. So keep in mind that this petzl paw is for the litter attendant and for accessories. It is not for tying the patient in. The patient should go to the steel ring. So once you kind of get it laid out, it's good to reorient these and get all the twists out of them. But for the basic rigging, that's about where you want to be. Typically, for weight and balance, your feet are going to end up a little longer than your head. So you definitely want to kind of find that balance point, and then as soon as it's weighted, to kind of adjust so your patient's head is just slightly uphill. And again, this is hanging down here for the litter attendant, for IV bags if you need that, any sort of accessory. And that is litter rigging on the titanium litter. Alright, so our next skill is how to tie an equalized anchor. Our pretend anchor points here will be the 2 legs of the table here and our floor anchor. I'm going to have a basket hitch around each of these with webbing. And the evaluator will determine your focal point that they want you to go to, so we'll go ahead and say that that's right there. How about here? We're going to use our tough cord, which we use for bigger anchors. Best way to do this is actually just to run through the carabiners. Get plenty of slack down here. Pull down then between the carabiners. And I'm going to move over toward our focal point. At this point, you can do 2 things. You can either girth hitch this or knot it. So we'll start with the girth hitch. I've gotten everything sort of pulled equally there. I put one end around that side, and this end is going to come around this way so that we can get a nice even loop here. And we're going to girth hitch this. Now this girth hitch, if cinched down, is as strong as a knot. If these do fail, this is redundant. It won't cause the other parts of the system to fail. However, it doesn't leave you a lot of other places to attach things. So sometimes if you've got a big operation going on, it is actually nicer to make this a little longer and then throw a big old overhand knot in it. Go ahead and clean that up. Let's see here. And once you've got that cleaned up, you can clip your anchor plank to that. Just a couple notes here. So you can clip as many things as you need to into that point. If you are going to clip to other places, it's called clipping to a shelf. You can clip up here, but you need to clip to at least 2 segments from 2 different anchors. So for instance, you could clip right there. You could clip across here. What you can't do is clip to 1 anchor or 1 point on 1 anchor. That would be an automatic fail on your test. So you always want to take a strand from at least 2 different anchors. And that is your equalized anchor.
All right, so let's go over the tensionless hitch. So there's just a few things to remember. One, this is essentially, whenever we say hitch, it's symbiotic. So it has to be attached to something for it to work. There is a rule going around anything. You have to have a minimum of 3 wraps. So we start with our figure 8. Pull enough line through to where you know it's going to make it all 3 times. That's going to be a lot. Two and 3. So 3 wraps around a tree that is, I mean, there's a lot of friction on trees. So minimum 3, then we take our end of the carabiner, or you can figure 8 follow through if you don't have one, and that secures your tensionless hitch. If we're talking about something that is just as strong and you trust it, like a large piece of, like a large steel post, we'll just talk about this, for example. So it's a lot smoother, so it has less friction. So if we're going to do a tensionless hitch around an object that is smaller and has less friction, we do more wraps. On this, you can add 2, 3, 4 wraps, whatever makes sense. So again, tensionless hitch will work just as fine on this as it will on this. It just requires more wraps. Now, tensionless hitch does take a little bit longer to tie, but it also uses the entire strength of the rope because there's no knot. All right, let's go over anchors with Dyneema. We'll talk about 2. One is really simple. It's just the basket hitch. It's going to go directly from the back to the front, making sure that our tack bar is outside of the friction around the anchor, and it's outside of the connection point of the carabiner, or where it's going to be tied. Okay? Basket hitch is very strong, more than adequate, and very quick. Very simple. A second way, if we need to bring the anchor up off the ground or higher in the tree and we want it to stay in place, we'll start, rather than going around the back, we're going to start around the front. So in this configuration, we're able to utilize the friction of the tree. So if we're doing work higher up, this will maintain a constriction around the object and allow us to keep this in place while we're working or setting anchors. So this would be the wraparound basket hitch essentially. All right, we're going to talk about back time. So when we have either an artificial high directional or we have our anchor and maybe this isn't quite big enough, so we need to make sure that it's strong enough, so we're back tying and making it redundant. So a few things to consider. So this could be a tree, this could be anything, but when we add a back tie, either when we come and tie into it, we want to make sure that we capture what's right here. So what do we have going on here? Here we want to make sure we either capture it. So we can do that a few different ways. You know, when we run this around our tree, we want to make sure that we're running in between so that this becomes one cohesive unit. You can use a carabiner if that's convenient. In this case, we'll just focus on this right here. So we have a water knot at the end of our rope, or end of our webbing. We will set an appropriate back anchor, back point. So this could also be a tree, a rock, a horn, whatever is available. When we do that, we want to make sure that it's in line. If we have anchors to where we can equalize that, that's also ideal. So what we can do here is we can feed this through. Okay. That way, we want to make sure that this is tension. You know, we don't want this slack. So if anything does happen, whatever's loose here would also incorporate into our fall rating in the system. So make sure that this is tension. You can come through again. You could do a trucker's hitch. Where essentially we're adding a slip knot. Run that through our bite. Okay. So we got appropriate tension here. Okay. Then we're going to tie this off. Right? So half hitch. And our overhand. So now we have this pre-tension. We have it incorporated into our existing anchor, and it's anchored in the mat. So this provides us additional security when we're not completely sure about the stability of our anchor in the front.
Okay, so for your vertical skills for your level 2, we're going to do both being lowered and rappelling. So I have my belayer over here, and we'll just get started. So Mike, am I on belay?
On belay.
All right, climbing. So we'll go to the top, but we'll stop here for the test. So I'll say, Mike, take. All right, and so that he's got me locked off. and that'll put me into a hanging position. The first skill is actually to be lowered. So when I'm ready to be lowered, going to be sitting back. I'm not going to be like this. I'm going to be like this in a seated position. I'm going to say, Mike, lower.
Lowering.
And I'm walking down the wall. I'm going to say off belay. So your second skill is going to be rappelling. So you're going to climb up the same way and hook yourself into the static line, which is your rappel line. You can use any device you want. If it's not auto-locking, you need to back it up. And whatever device you use on your test is the one you need to use in the real world. So, Mike, am I still on belay?
On belay.
Climbing. All right, take. Okay. So now from this hanging position, I'm going to use an ATC, which is a non-auto locking device. We're going to hook it into my belay loop before I hook the rope in, and that way I don't drop it. I will run through. I want to have my brake hand on the tooth side for this device. Once I have it through, then I clip it so that nothing was ever dangling free. You can go ahead and make sure that's lined up. And I'm going to back this up again with a Prusik. In this case, I'm going to use a VT. Again, develop your own system. There's lots of right answers here. So I'm not tying any of the VT or distal or anything here. I'm just going to tie a regular Prusik because it's fast and it's only under my body weight. So before I get started or come off of anything, I'm going to first make sure I'm hooked in. And then I want to make sure that I do what's called function testing. So that means I want to make sure that everything I have is not only in the right place and looks right, but it actually works the way it's supposed to. So I'm going to pull up a little bit, push that Prusik up, and I'm going to let this go, let that Prusik catch. You can see that I'm not moving, even without my device engaged. I'm going to engage my device and go ahead and lower so the device works. That's holding as well. So I'm going to say, Mike, slack.
Slack.
All right. And then just give me a loose belay as I rappel. And I come down like so. So that is one method of passing your rappel test. Again, you can use any device you would like. Just practice with it, and that's all you have to do. All right, this is your hasty harness demonstration. You want to start with the two ends of the webbing so that you can find the middle. This can be your tie-in point in the front, so you're going to start with that coming out from between your legs. To do the leg loops, you can bring that loop around the front, hook in there, and then you can tie an overhand knot. Tying an overhand knot here is not 100% necessary, but if you're using this for very long, you'll be happy to have that kind of keep the weight off your legs. So the other side, same thing. We'll tie a quick overhand knot. Pull that through. There's a certain amount of awkwardness inherent to this, but that's okay. Alright, so we have our two leg loops front here, and from here we're going to wrap this around. Coming into a square knot on the side. If you want, you can tie off little safety overhands as well. And then you're going to be tied in right here. Again, I did this pretty fast, so you can definitely adjust things around too and make them a little bit more snug if you need to, but that's the basics.